class. I'm Mr. Frederick. Welcome back to Asynchronous Math. Today's topic will be estimating square roots. Let's head to the board. First, let's look at these perfect squares. So 1 squared equals 1, 2 squared equals 4, and so on. These squares, when you take the square root, so let's say I take the square root of 16, I get 4. I get a perfect number out. There's no decimals, no fractions. It makes it very nice to compute and really easy to use when we're doing algebra or other calculations. But what we're going to talk about today is not these perfect square roots, or perfect squares and perfect square roots that correspond to them, but other non-perfect square roots and how we can estimate those. Now, we're going to consider the case where we have an imperfect square and we're trying to find the square root of that. So let's take the square root of 32, for example. So, we know that 32 is greater than 25 but less than 36. And that holds when we look at square root. So the square root of 32 is greater than the square root of 25, is less than the square root of 36. This relationship holds. Now, because this square root relationship holds, we also get the relationship that if we take the square root, it also holds. So when we consider the square root of 25, we get 5. When we consider the square root of 36, we get 6. So the square root of 32 is going to be in between this 5 and this 6. Now we're estimating, so now let's consider how far we need to go to either side. So the square root of 32 is like 7 away from the square root of 23. And the square root of 32 is 4 away from the square root of 36. And so knowing that, we know our answer is going to be closer to 6. So we can think it's 5.73-ish, somewhere around that area. And we're just estimating, so it doesn't need to be exact, but it's about 5.73. And that's okay for us here. So now let's look at another example. Let's take the square root of 83, for example. It falls in between the perfect squares of 81 and 100. So if we take the square root of both of those, we should get our kind of relation we're looking for. And as you can see, the square root of 83 is 2 away from the square root of 81 and 17 away from the square root of 100. So now let's just solve this like we normally would. The square root of 81 is going to be 9. The square root of 100 is going to be 10. And so now we have to find a number that lies in between that. And so we're estimating, it's going to be closer to the 9. So we're going to think probably about like 9.21. That seems like a reasonable estimate because the square root of 83 is closer to the square root of 81. Thank you guys for watching. If you're in my class currently, go ahead and head over to Canvas and make sure you complete any unfinished assignments. And if you're not in my class, or even if you are, hit subscribe and like all these videos. Have a great day, and until next time.